episode of Who's Got the Ball. We're on episode 12 now. Come to the point now where I don't even have to keep saying the episode
Mm.
number. I was thinking to myself, why do I just keep saying the episode number at the start? Like, it's grand for the first few, but then just need to drop it. But how's things with you? What's the crack?
Good. Good. I was up at the Munster match at the weekend up in McHale Park. They thankfully came away with the win. The
Mm,
wind up there was just it was something like I'd never experienced at a rugby match before. It was just catching every single kick. But
yeah,
we were in there. One of the lads said that 20% off the tee today would be good, and I think Jack Crowley kind of smashed that out of the park, thankfully, and
yeah.
came away with the win despite having 14 men. Good weekend overall.
It was
Westport's
a
a good spot.
close win, as a close game as well, which is exciting. Even if when you're going to see a game, you want something close.
Exactly. You don't want either team to kind of run away with it. And I think if it had stayed 15 men each, Munster might have run away with it. But
Mm,
losing Nankivell now for the Stade Frontier, the La Rochelle game is a bit of a
yeah,
nightmare as well. But
yeah. I think Connacht has fallen off a cliff a good bit there in the last
big
like
time,
10
yeah.
games. They started
Mm.
off well, but it was a good weekend for Munster in general with Leinster getting the win. Then
Yeah,
gives you a chance to move into the top four. Smaller gap now between yourselves and Sharks. So that was a very tough game for Leinster. They did very well to come out on
yeah.
top.
I
Um,
only saw bits and pieces of it now. I was on in the pub after, and it was
mm,
kind of hard to keep an eye on this. That was on the Limerick winning the Allianz Division 4 football
oh
was on
yeah,
another TV, and then Brighton was on the other TV. So it was kind of
there's
trying to watch
so
all three of
much.
them.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. I just
Yeah.
watched the Leinster game and then I saw the penalties, extra time penalties of the other game after the Brighton game. But yeah, I thought Leinster were very good considering they played a lot of the young players. Also had a bit of an outing myself there on Saturday. Went up
Oh
to
yeah.
UL for the UL Vikings and South Dublin Panthers. It was a nil-niller, but man, the weather was shocking. Like it was raining,
Yeah.
like pretty like blowing in your face kind of rain. And in the second half, and there was some decent plays. I got some clips, so I might put something together there for that. But yeah, it's good to go to a local game. Unfortunately, no score, but look, still good to show a bit of support and stuff like that. So that was
Yeah.
covering that. But go on.
Yeah, if you go to another game and it finishes 0-0 again, then we're going to have to just cut you from the Gaelic gridiron, and I'll have to go myself, I think, because
Yeah,
if you're the reason that they finish 0-0, then we can't be having that.
I know. Yeah, I can't believe it finished 0-0. I was just expecting some sort of score. I knew the Panthers were kind of building up to a score, and then they fumbled, and I was like, "Oh my God, we're not going to see a score here!" Like, but yeah, it was as you kind of mentioned there. I was covering it with Gaelic Gridiron, so Jimmy that we had on previously. So yeah, hopefully we'll do a bit more work with them over time.
Yeah,
But
sounds, yeah, hopefully.
yeah, we'll get a good few more games in. But moving on to a different type of football to start up, we're gonna talk about. Do you like that transition?
I did, good job, yeah.
Yeah.
In fairness,
uh,
you were starting to smash out these transitions as the week goes on as well. I
oh
think
yeah,
you're coming
it's
into your own now.
it just comes naturally, you know.
Yeah.
Great presenter. Might be on the what's it called, Late Late Show next.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the next Ryan Tuberty.
Yeah.
Don't think I want to be that, but anyway. So what we're going to do this week is, since it was only just a few games at the weekend, in the English League, we're going to do our predictions for who's going to win the cups for the rest of the season. So obviously we have the League Cup is over. Newcastle won that one, so we're on the FA Cup, Champions League, and Europa League left. There's no point in going with a Premier League prediction because that's kind of wrapped up. But
And with the Conference League, really, Chelsea are surely going to win that Conference League. Like, I
yeah,
don't
they
think
should.
don't think there'll be any argument between us that we'd probably both come out with Chelsea, so we can leave that
Yeah,
off as well.
exactly. So we'll start with the FA Cup. I'm going to go first. So we have two semi-finals now after the weekend's action. We've got Forest and City, and then the other side is Villa and Crystal Palace. So what I'm going for is probably the least that you'd expect. I'm going with Crystal Palace to win it, 9-2. I think it's a bit of a mad one, but I think they have that ability to like win a cup game. I know we saw them get there before, and how they performed at the weekend against Fulham was very, very good. They put them away nicely. I tipped them to win that on last week's episode, and I think the way they've been kind of mentioned at the time, the way they've been performing since Christmas, they've only lost twice, once to Brentford and once to Everton. I think they just beat Villa 4-1. And I saw after the game like an interview with Jacob Ramsey, and he heard that they got Palace, and he was kind of laughing and saying, "Oh, Palace is it? Oh, that's good, that's good." I think you don't want to underestimate Crystal Palace. You don't want to underestimate anybody in a cup tie, especially a Premier League side. Like you just repress them, lads.
Yeah,
So don't be getting too big for your boots. I think it could be tough now. Like they're going to be coming off a couple of legs against PSG. They're in the Champions League, still trying to make top four in the Premier League or as close to Europe as they can. And Palace only have this to play for at this point. So I think I'm going to go with Palace here. They're 9-2. So themselves and Forest are both 9-2. So I think, yeah, I actually really like them to get there, and I actually think they'll take down City in the final because I think Forest and run will come to an end on the other side. So
I like that shout from you, to be honest. I think like the way Palace finished last year under Glasner, and I know they had a really slow start this year, but since they started getting the lads back, the Adam Morgan's back now, Eze's back, kind of back to 100, looks back to 100% fit, and they're a really really good team to watch. They're in my power rankings there a couple of weeks back, and got a bit of a laugh off it, like, but they are one of the better teams in the league to watch. As
yeah,
you said, Aston Villa will be playing PSG, and that will probably take kind of centre stage from more than playing. It's not really glamorous playing Crystal Palace. It's great to play at Wembley, but playing PSG is the glamour tie for them.
yeah,
So I don't think it's a bad. I think Glasner is a great manager. I think Emery is also a great manager, but if I was picking someone to come from that side, I would have picked Palace as well, to be honest with you. But I have gone with Forest to win it.
oh,
I'm at 9-2. I think the season they're having is fairy tale stuff for them. Joe, they look so good. Their two centre backs could probably get into any team in the Premier League at the moment with the way they're playing. I
yeah,
think they're just incredible to watch, the two of them. I think Palace have a great team. Matsel's one of the bargains of last season with the way he's playing as well. Two penalty saves. As you said, they're also 9-2, so they're the same as City. And I watched City against Bournemouth, and it was more Bournemouth losing it than Man City winning it, really. Bournemouth should have been out of sight by half time, really, and then City got two chances and took the two of them. But City just looks so vulnerable. They're so easy to get at. And Palace are a big, strong, physical team. Their first time at Wembley in God knows how long. I actually meant to look it up before I came
Forest,
on
you
here.
mean?
But Forest, sorry, yeah, their first time at Wembley in a long, long time. And
Hmm.
like they're a better team than City this season. They won't be next year. Don't get me wrong. Like City will strengthen, but the way they've played this season, I think they'll beat City in their first outing at Wembley in a long time.
Yeah, I think the last time they played there was in a championship playoff game. Um, I
Oh
think
yeah,
I saw a clip from that when Ryan Yates scored, and I think there's a stat that they played Huddersfield in that game, and right now they have more players in their squad from that Huddersfield squad than they do of the Forest squad of that day.
no way.
So
That's
yeah,
mad.
it's a bit mad, but yeah, I think Forest is a good one too. The only reason I went with City is just because I think they'll have to pile everything into this game now, and they did get a bit of luck at times against Bournemouth, but again they did miss that penalty too, and that really swung things. The thing I will say about Forest is, like you mentioned, Sells, they're excellent on penalties with him. Like he is such a good penalty stopper. That's two rounds now in a row they've gotten through on penalties. So you would fancy them if it
Three in a
goes
row, I
that
think they've
far.
gone through in penalties.
Three? That's mad. Like so you would fancy them if it
Yeah, I
goes
think it's
that
three in a
far.
row they've gone through in penalties.
So like yeah, if they get to take a team to penalties, they might just try to do that against City. Just play it out if they have to, like they did in the last game. Because honestly, Brighton were the better team in that game. But I think that from what I saw afterwards in the highlights and stuff, and then in the extra time, Brighton were the only team that were pushing from when I was watching. But like Forest had the kind of mental ability to get through it and kind of pack out the box. And they've done that a number of times this season and already against City in their 1-0 win recently. So yeah, I like that pick. I like that we both went for the underdogs too. Neither of us picked the favourites, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
But
like I think if either favorite is going to get through, it will obviously be Man City. But like
mm,
I'm really confident on Palace beating Villa. I don't know why, but there's just something in my mind that I just think
yeah,
they'll be massive underdogs when the betting comes out for that. And I think anyone who backs Villa over them, if you're not a professional gambler, if you're backing Villa over Palace that day, then I think you're making a mistake. I think
yeah,
Palace have just been really good the last couple of weeks since Christmas. Really, they've kind of turned it back on again.
yeah,
Obviously, like there is a good chance that City will just come out and wipe the floor for us. They know how to play at Wembley. They've done it so many times recently like that.
mm,
Like it wouldn't be overawing for them being back in the dressing room again. But I think when it's two teams that haven't been there in a while, that it would be a different story.
yeah. No, I agree with you. Do you want to go ahead with your Champions League pick?
Yeah, so I kind of struggle a bit with this because obviously Man City have the voodoo over the Champions League, but I've gone with the other Spanish team who I think have just been a joy to watch again this season. I've gone with Barcelona to win it. I just think the way they play, they have Rafinha's and the form of his life. Yamin Yamal is Yamin Yamal. He's just outrageous for 17 years old. They're so strong in midfield. I just think, like, I don't think they'll have many problems getting to the Real Madrid game. But the Real Madrid game is where the issue will be. If they play Real Madrid in the final, that is where they will kind of come unstuck. I really fancy them. I think they're won their last eight in the league now,
Yeah,
which is some going because they had a run there stinking form around Christmas and kind of they had a good advantage in the league and they kind of threw it away. But I think they're back on
mm.
top now again.
Yeah,
Eight
they're
wins
three
in a row.
points
The two
clear right
Madrid
now.
teams, yeah, the two Madrid teams are kind of falling apart in front of Horizon the league as well. So I think they're the strongest one left. Like they've Dortmund in the next round. Like they will get past them,
Yeah, definitely.
surely. And then their semi-final is Bayern or Inter. That's when it will kind of.
Yeah,
I think whoever wins that will. Whoever comes out of those four teams is the one that would want to win it. But I'm back in
yeah.
Barca.
Well, this conversation is a little bit easier because I also went with Barca. So they're
Yeah.
3-1. I just, for the same reasons that you mentioned, I think their attacking ability is just second to none in Europe. Their record speaks for itself. Most goals in Europe's top five leagues with 82, most goals in the Champions League with 32. And I think, kind of as you mentioned a little bit, I think Inter are going to come out on top against Bayern, in my opinion. And I think that'll be the toughest test because Inter are solid defensively. They're good and clinical in terms of their attack when they need to be. So I think that will be the toughest test. But I think that Barca have too much attacking power, and I think that'll ultimately win out. Looking at, as you mentioned already, you mentioned Rafinha and Yamal, like just insane. The goal Yamal scored for Spain over the international break
Oh,
off that long ball from Huysen. It's crazy. And then you're looking at adding in Lewandowski into that. Between the three of them, they've had 65 goals and assists in the league this season. And
that's in the
Rafinha has
league
been
alone.
like, yeah, and then Rafinha is there on like Ballon d'Or levels, basically in the Champions League, scoring 11 goals, 5 assists. Like,
Yeah.
they're just yeah, they're just looking so good from a whole different type of Barcelona that they still have possession, but they're much more direct and a lot faster. So they're really good to watch. So yeah, they're my pick too. But yeah, I was kind of caught between themselves and Real and PSG on the other side. I would like to see a Barcelona and PSG final. I think it would be
I would
so
that yeah
such
that,
a
that's the
great
one
game.
that's yeah that's the one I'd want and if it came down to that like I wouldn't want PSG to win but I really want Luis Enrique to win it because I think
Yeah,
he comes across so well and everything he never interviews badly he always any interview he does he seems sound but I
hmm
just it's a bit
and he's
like when
been
Man
through a
City
lot
won
as
it
well.
there yeah it's good Joe it's the state back clubs winning it again is not what I want this what kind of way I want Barcelona to pull it out of the bag this year.
Yeah, no, it would be a good final anyway, just for a viewer, like the attacking talent on show there. But again, I think the Barca are just a bit more clinical, so that's why I've gone with them. I'll go ahead with my Europa League prediction. So, what I've gone with
Do
is my team, Manchester United. I've
I
had to
know
go with
it.
them. I've had to go with them. So it's only the only reason I'm gone with them here is because whoever wins out on that side of the draw is going to win. Like the other side of the draw is weak enough. It's Frankfurt and Spurs in the next round. I'd say whoever wins that will probably come out there. Lazio are okay, but they haven't been great this season. I think whoever comes out of United side will win it. Leon have been very, very poor in Ligue 1, losing to Strasbourg at the weekend. I think it was 4-2, but Strasbourg were like 4-1 or 4-0 up or something. I think that, yeah, I don't think they've been very good. I think that they have been falling off in the league again. So have United, but Bilbao have also fallen off in the league. So I think you have three teams there between the three of them. I'm not going to mention Rangers because they're not going to get past Bilbao, but those three on that side are all kind of poorer in the league this year than was to be expected. Bilbao are the best in the league out of the three, and that's what I think will be the biggest test because obviously the game is in Bilbao in the final, so they'll want to get there. I think that will be the semi United against Bilbao, but I have seen improvement in United in the last month. you can see Amram has used some players in positions now that work, that maybe he knows kind of how to get the most out of Casemiro in this system right now. Xerxes has been performing better when he hasn't been up top. I think looking at Euro coming back, Mainu will be back. There's a possibility that Ahmad will be back for the final if we get there. So I think, look, I think it's obviously a bit of bias there too, thinking that United are going to win. But I just think that himself, Amram, and Ratcliffe know that they need this, not only for the fans, but for the money. Like, if United don't get into Europe, it's a catastrophe for how much money they'll lose out on. So I think they'll be pushing so hard in these games. And I could just see them doing it because I've been impressed with them in the last month or so, especially in the Europa.
Yeah, so they were kind of when I was looking through it, like I think first of all it's a really, really poor lineup in the quarterfinal. Like there's teams there that are doing absolutely nothing in the league. Rangers have been awful. Roma haven't been too good. They brought back in Claudio Ranieri. As you said, Bilbao are the best of the bunch there. They've only lost one of their last five, and they I think they've two wins, two draws, and they lost in their last five. They're the ones who I have gone with. They're joint
Mm,
favourites with United to win it, which is completely understandable. Like they are, if anyone is going to win it, it will be from that match that they play. But I think Athletic Club with their quality. They
mm,
have the two Williams brothers are absolutely class. They're firing on all cylinders at the moment. I think they could be too strong for United, but at the same time, like United will have more nous. I kind of they're Joey Bruno there. He knows how to win fouls probably better than the Athletic Club players do. Um, I think the referee a lot will depend who the referee is. If he's a soft referee, then Bilbao get free kicks for everything. Then United will be in trouble. But if he's a strong referee, kind of plays on a bit, then United could have too much. But I obviously couldn't back United for a start. But then when I was looking, then I was like Bilbao at 10-3 is it's
yeah,
really good odds.
yeah,
I think the main thing is that it's such a poor competition this year that one of the English teams really should be winning it. United or Spurs should be going on to win it here now, but the season that they've had, you
yeah,
can't trust them. Like you just cannot back them with any sense of real confidence that they can come
yeah.
out the other side of this. Like, but
I think
if go
for
on, yeah,
me, it was like looking at Spurs, like they should be coming into that final. But as you've just
definitely,
said, you can't trust them like a single bit. And I know that United haven't been trustworthy, but they've been improved, and Spurs just look to be the same. So I'm just a bit weary because they barely got through against Alkmaar, whereas United looked a bit more like they were prepared against Sociedad, even though they went down in the second leg. And I think Casemiro excels in these like European games against Spanish teams because he knows how to play against
mm,
them. And I think that would be a benefit against Bilbao, but I can't knock you for going for Bilbao because I think it was very tough between them and United for me, and I just went for United because I support them, to be honest.
yeah.
But it was a
I think
toss up.
especially with it being in their home stadium as well, it's like that is such a motivator. That's why like
Yeah.
I'm not overly willing to write Bayern out of the Inter game, but I do think Inter will get through. I
Mm.
think Bayern get an extra 10 or 20% from knowing that it's going to be on in their ground and they kind of this is the one they really, really want to be in this one. Like
Yeah.
they've the league pretty much sewn up so that they're kind of concentrating the Champions League now as well. They do keep picking up a couple of knocks though, which is a killer as well.
Yeah.
But as you said, like if United can have a mad back for the final, other players coming back, mainly coming back, you kind of the team is getting better and will only get stronger when the better players win it. Obviously, that's kind of just
Yeah.
it's how life works. Like
Yeah.
you're going to be better when there's better people doing it. Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
but
Yeah. No.
I knew it was always going to come down to between United and Bilbao for me, and I just went
Yeah.
with Bilbao. You went with United.
Yeah. Fair enough. I just looked at mine there. If I put the three, so Palace at 9-2, Barca at 3-1, and United at 7-2. It's a 98-1 treble. I'd say yours is around 90-1 or so as well because we obviously both
Close enough, I
have
think.
teams with similar odds. So yeah, if you fancy it, lads, there you go. But those are our three predictions. Let's see how it goes. Be interesting now if we get a Palace and Forest final or something like that, and we'll both be
Yeah,
looking
we'd
at the
love it.
semis here if United are against Bilbao. But let's move on to the NBA. So, do you want to go ahead first and give us your what you've gone with this week?
Yeah, so I think it like as the weeks goes on, it kind of gets harder and harder to pick people you want to talk about. It's kind of like, do you want to tear someone apart or do you want to praise someone really, really high? And I think Shea Giggles, oh my God, I
Oh
can't believe I
Jesus.
can't. Shea Gilligas, I'm just going to call him SGA for the whole duration of this now.
Yeah,
God, I can't believe I
yeah.
butchered that. He has just been
For
absolutely
anybody else that
outstanding.
wants the full pronunciation, it's Shea Gilgis Alexander, but we're going with SJ, so there you go.
Yeah, we're going to stick with SGA. He's just been incredible again for the Thunder again this year again this year. Like he
Yeah,
kind of he was decent when he started, and he's been just gotten better and better year on year. And last
yeah,
year and this year, he has just been a menace to play against. He's averaging 33, 5 rebounds and 6 assists. He started every game for the OKC, which is a serious level of um kind of
longevity.
this consistency, yeah, longevity, consistency, like just hard, just clearly very hard that he's not getting injured at all. He's playing all these back-to-backs and just putting up 33 points a game constantly.
Yeah,
The Thunder are the best team in the NBA, and he's the best player in the Thunder. And I just think him and they just deserve an awful lot of credit.
yeah,
I wouldn't want to play the Thunder in the playoffs, and especially with him. He averaged 37 and 6 in the playoffs last year. So that's
it's
silly numbers.
madness.
Like
Like,
it just whatever putting up the 30 points, getting the 7 rebounds and 6 assists on top of it as well is just
yeah,
it's
he just
crazy. And
notched it up. Like,
he's the kind of man that you want. Yeah, like, he's just been incredible. Like he's just one of the best players in the NBA. His teammates clearly love him. He makes their life so much easier. Chet has an easier time. Dort has an easier time. Just less pressure on him when SJ is on the court. And just
yeah,
what a player, man. Honestly, what a
yeah.
player.
No, I think I'm happy you brought him up because at the start of the year, I kind of tipped him to be the MVP, and I tipped
Mm.
Thunder to win, as I've mentioned. But at the start of the year, he was 4-1 to be MVP. He's 1-40 on now. So for every 40 euro you put on, you win a euro if you do that right now. That's how likely it is at this point. Another interesting thing has been his defensive side of the game. He's just like when a player is so good on offense and they're even passable on defense, it's like, wow, well done because they have to put in that effort. But he is one of the best defenders in the league at his position, and he deserves to be in the all defense team. He deserves to be in the defensive player of the year conversation. Like he's never going to win it, but he deserves to be in the top 10 consideration at least for that, because of how much he puts into offense. Like looking at now, I just saw this stat earlier today that he now has the fifth best single season plus minus in NBA history. So when he's on the court, his plus minus across the whole season is plus 878. The only other players who are higher than that are Steph Curry three different times and Draymond
Of
once.
course. That's crazy.
So yeah, so it's like how good he has been with this team and how young the team is, and he's the leader. Like they're they have a double digit win in a season. So how many double digit wins they've had in a season has been 48. So 48 times they've won by 10 points or more this season. That's how dominant this team has been. And obviously that's a team stat, but looking at his plus minus, that points
Yeah,
to him driving that whole thing. They're the two youngest teams to ever finish as the number one seed in the NBA are the Thunder last year and the Thunder this year, and
under
he's
this
been the
year.
leader both times. So
Yeah, and
I
like
think,
it's like what I was saying there about his minutes, or sorry, about the fact he played 75 games. He's played every game this season. He's also doing it in 34, 35 games a minute. He's averaging just above 34 minutes a game.
yeah,
Like to be able to keep up that level of playing minutes, always on the court, and to do it for so long over such a long season, and
yeah,
keep putting up the numbers he does, that plus minus is frankly ridiculous. Like it's absolutely outrageous to be that far above the plus when you're on the court. It's just
yeah. And how many
yeah,
games
the
they're
fact
just
that
blowing teams away in, and like
yeah,
he is like if they give him the ball at any point, it's just like he can isolate anybody. He has probably one of the best handles in the league. Every week, it feels like he has something new that he's adding to his handles, and like players can't keep up with him. And I don't agree with some of the stuff about like that he foul baits and stuff because I honestly feel like he's such a quick player. And yes, sometimes he does do a little bit of flopping, but it's very little compared to other superstars. Like back when we used to see Harden take that step back through
mm,
where he would just flop every time, but it was working and getting him free throws. Like now we've got this guy who you can't help but foul him because he is so quick and he can make anything. Like the other day, I think I'm not sure who was on him, but I'm pretty sure it was like a 7 footer. he was behind the backboard and he shot it
Oh,
over them, and like he's just a sick player. I just can't. I don't know. I just love watching every bit of him, and I think he'll be one of the faces of the league for a couple of years to come now. And I still really think that the Thunder are going to win it all. I think it doesn't matter their age when they have a maverick like him leading the team. Yeah, it's going to be very hard to stop come playoff season because, like you said last year, those numbers in the playoffs they're not normal, and they won't be normal
absolutely
again this
not.
year.
Like I think the biggest surprise for me is that it's taken us this long to kind of single him out and talk about him.
Yeah,
The fact that we've waited 12 weeks, 12 episodes to bring him up is scandalous. Like because what he's done
yeah,
since game one, he's just been on it. He hasn't dropped. He hasn't even, from what I can now, it's been a lot of games, as I just said, but like from what I can remember, he hasn't really had two or three games in a row where he's been off peak. Like he might have had
no,
one here or there where he's put up 12 points. He mightn't even. But I just think for the whole season, he's been the model of consistency that you'd
yeah,
want. And as you said, I do think the Thunder are going to win it out now as well.
mm,
I just think the way they played all season, it's hard to see how they can drop off so much that they don't win a couple of games or win a couple of seven game series is because
yeah.
they're the best team in the NBA and it's quite comfortable from at the moment as well.
Yeah, I think they will do it. I really think they will, and I'd love to see them do it as well with such a young
Mm.
team, and I'd love it for him as well. I really hope he wins MVP. I think he probably will at this point. But yeah, the amount of wins they have, the way they've been playing, and to be honest, I could see them winning all the rest of their games at this point and just finishing with an outrageous record. But yeah, I really like the fact that we talked about him. I know we did wait a long time, but I think it's a nice prime time, like a month out from the
Yeah,
less than a
from the
month out, sorry,
playoffs.
from the playoffs. It's a nice build up. But yeah, if you want to go watch highlights of somebody, go watch his highlights from this season. They're just crazy. And every time he steps on the court, it's just insane. But yeah, if you got anything else on him, or I'll move on.
No, we're happy to move on. Like as I said, I do think they are comfortably favourites now. They probably earned the betting, but I think even if you're just going off the eye test and not looking at numbers, like they should
Yeah,
be everyone's favourite to win it at this stage because they're blowing teams out every single week. And
yeah,
as you said, they could very well finish the season without losing another game and finish like 70-12 or something because
yeah. Well,
unreal,
to to
absolutely
kind of
unreal.
wrap it up, I think another one more thing is just that like people saying about their age and stuff. Like last year, they had their time where they got to the playoffs at a young age, and they crashed out against a very tough Dallas team. And like I think this time now they have that experience under their belts, and it didn't do anything negative to them when they got to this regular season. They kicked on again. They put everything into the season, and now they're ready to go again with some additions in Hartenstein and Chet kind of fully fit this season, and adding Caruso as well. So yeah, I
Mm.
think any other argument about other teams winning, I can listen. But I think anything outside of either the Celtics or them, I don't think can be really argued. But
No, like
let's
the fact they've come on so far from 57 and 25 last year
yeah,
to
and even
definitely
that is
they're
so
going to
good.
win 65 games this year. Like Joe, it's that's the minimum they're going to win at this stage, and
Yeah,
they've gotten better and better as the year has gone on. As you said, the 48 of their wins have been by double digits.
yeah,
Like
it's just
that's
sick.
absolutely ridiculous. Like 48 of 62 games,
Yeah,
whatever the percentage of that is, it's definitely about 80%. Like that's just crazy stuff. And they
yeah.
really really should go on and win it from here now.
Yeah, fingers crossed they do. We'd both love to see it. But now moving on to my topic. So I've gone with the Grizzlies, but I know we kind of talked about Ja and some other players a couple of weeks back. What I want to focus on is the fact that they just fired coach Taylor Jenkins. So
Mm.
I think that was a very shocking thing. It just came out of like absolutely nowhere, and just how they've played and kind of how he's evolved this team since he took over in 2019. I think he's been one of the longest serving coaches in the league. He brought up this young core. I think there was only five other coaches or four other coaches that had a longer tenure than him, and they've all won a championship at this point. Like you're looking at like
Mm.
the likes of Steve Kerr and Spoelstra and these guys, but he's obviously so well respected, and I would have thought that they would have stuck with him. I know this season hasn't been as good, so looking at how they they played against some of the top teams, they were 0-4 against OKC, losing by double-digit points every single time. But as we kind of mentioned, OKC do that to everybody. They're three and
Yeah,
six against Houston, Denver, and the Lakers, who were the other teams ahead of them. So like they performed really well outside of teams who are above 500, but
yeah.
then against other teams they were not as good, and I think they had a losing record against teams that were above 500. So I think that could be playing into the fact of why this has gone the way it has. But as we highlighted in the Jack conversation, he's like seen to be their main guy, and he's constantly been out injured or something going on over the last, not just this year, but the years prior too. So I don't really put that on the coach. I think they should have stuck with him at least until the end of the year and reassessed and maybe got his opinion on what they could do going forward, because he's obviously so well respected and a team will snap him up straight away. What did you make of it when it came out?
I was shocked with the timing of it, but I wasn't shocked that they did it at the same time because, like, they replaced his backing, his backroom staff in the offseason without his knowledge. They
Mm,
brought in the man Thomas Isuit, the Finnish lad from
yeah,
Paris. They brought
Yaslo
him in
or
as his
whatever.
assistant without telling him. Yeah, and like I think there was always this succession plan was there to get your man the top job, but I just
Hmm.
can't believe they've done it with 8 games left. They're sitting pretty and so they're in the playoffs. Like it's
Yeah,
mad. But I just said like the last time they beat a team with a 500 record above was February 2nd when they beat Milwaukee. But they haven't been a
God.
team that's over 500 since then. And going into a playoff. Like after the first round, you're going to play a team that's over 500. It's kind of how it works. And maybe they thought they'd have more success getting rid of him. But
Yeah,
at the same time, like he's brought him from the 11th best to the sixth best offense in the last 18 months. Like
yeah.
that's some jump in standard of shooting. I was reading say that apparently John Morant doesn't like the way the offense is kind of it's not worked around him. And he's the man they paid. So I wonder if that's if they kind of like it's lose
Well,
the coach or lose John
he
Morant
needs
and
to
they've
be
said, oh
available
well,
for a long time before he
well,
can come
yeah,
out and say
exactly. He needs to
something
be
like
on the
that.
court as well. Exactly. I think it's madness to sack someone with this little games left and coming into playoff. It's such a big kind of it's a turning point for any season, but it's a massive like the lads now with the team now to get used to a new coach with 8 games left and a playoff run. I know
Yeah,
they're not going to win it, obviously, but you don't want to go in
yeah,
and don't want to go in and embarrass yourself either. Like, you kind of want to go in
yeah,
with a plan in place, a clear plan that the players have been playing with all year, not one that's been kind of drawn up in the last month of the season. And
yeah.
it feels like more of a hit and hope than now.
Just the kind of only thing I just thought of actually while we were talking there was maybe it's like one of those like new coach bounce things they're trying to do, but do it like right before the playoffs, so that you
Yeah,
go into the playoffs with like a new coach. And as you mentioned, they have had him at the since the start of the year. He was excellent, obviously, with Paris
with Paris.
basketball
Yeah,
winning the Euro Cup, and I think he won Coach of the Year last year with that in that competition. But I think yeah, it could be possible now that they had him lined up and that they were doing this at a strategic time, but it does just seem ridiculous because it's only 10 games out. Like you would think maybe they'd do that like in January where he has a few months
yeah,
then to build up to the playoffs. It was a big shock to me, to be honest, because he had a 250 and 214 record since he took over in June 2019. Jenkins did. Now in the playoffs, they've been there four times and they only won one series,
yeah.
and like that was abysmal series against the Timberwolves in 2022. So yeah, these things when you weigh them all up and add them all up, it makes a little bit of sense why they moved on now, or why they moved on. But it still doesn't make sense why they moved on now. I think it could have waited till the end of the season, still. But yeah, it was a shock to me, and I think he'll be snapped up very quickly in the next coaching cycle. You can hear other coaches, I think Spoelstra, Malone, a lot of the guys said that they were very surprised and that the Grizzlies were making a mistake. So that's as a lot of his peers are talking about him in that way.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that, like, when other coaches are coming out and saying that they can't believe a team has done that, like, that's when you know that it is likely a massive mistake after being made.
Mm,
But you know
yeah,
what? They've made it now, so we just have to see how they run with it. But as I
exactly.
said, I think it kind of puts their playoff hopes in a real hit and hope situation.
Yeah,
And they'll get knocked out in the first round, I think, whoever they play.
yeah, that I think so. If they're going to finish fifth, which they likely will, It's going to be a tough series against the Denver or the Lakers. So I think yeah, I think you're probably right there. But it's one of those things as well. It's like the Luka trade is like, oh, like this is our big plan, and then you just absolutely fall off a cliff after that. Like this could be to a smaller proportion, but it could be like this is our plan. We got rid of him. We got this guy in, and then you just stink out in the playoffs, lose 4-1 or 4-0 in the first round, and the fans will not be happy. But yeah, that's kind of a topic I wanted to touch on because it's something a bit crazy to happen at this time of the year. You rarely see it, especially on a team that's running this high, or kind of any team with 8 games left. They usually just wait.
Yeah, like there's no way like the Magic aren't sacking their coach. So the rubbish teams they're kind of keeping their coach to play and then they'll give it to them at the end of the season. Now I know there are teams that are tanking it's a bad example, but like
Yeah,
I can't remember a team ever doing this with 8 to 10 games left, sacking the coach and coming into
especially
playoffs. Like
not when
so
they're in
fair
the
enough
fifth
if
seed.
you're
Like,
yeah, exactly. Like yes, fair enough if you're kind of sitting in the middle of the road or you're on the beach already, then fair enough,
yeah,
bringing a new coach and kind of get him on up to speed before he goes into the summer.
yeah,
But sacking a fella when you're going into playoffs, it baffles me. It makes no sense.
no,
But these
not at
NBA
all.
heads don't seem to have many brain cells between them at the moment
So,
anyway, with what's going on in Dallas as well.
so much mad stuff happening. But yeah, that
Yeah.
gave us another storyline to talk about. So there you go. Do you want to move on to Gun Chance?
Yeah, would fire away. I think I went first last week, so if you want to
Cool.
remind the people of the score,
Yeah,
because it's
so
great.
are we giving ourselves a win for Forest since they won on penalties? I reckon so.
I was going to ask you that. We should have discussed this off camera. See, I think if we're playing by the rules, it was a draw, and a draw is not a win, unfortunately.
Okay,
So
okay.
I get a big fat zero, unfortunately. But I think rules are rules.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I was thinking either way, it doesn't matter because we both had Forest, so it's not like
Yeah,
one of us is shafting the other one. But yeah, so that makes the score 21-12. So I got 1 point for that giddy half court win
oh
against the Lakers, winning by 2 points with a crazy half court shot. I'm sure you've all seen it. If you haven't, give it a watch. My other pick was the Suns to beat the Wolves, and they lost by like 15 points. They're just getting
yeah.
blown out by everybody now, and KD got injured last night as well. So there you have it. But let's move on then to my picks for this week. What I have gone for is I've gone with two NBA games this week. So first of all, I've gone with the Hawks to beat the Knicks. So I think this is a game that I think I could have went with something similar before. I think I went with the Hawks to beat somebody else before, but I think yeah, that
I think
look,
I had him last week in my
did you?
I think one of my three last week was the Haw. Oh, was it?
I think no, maybe a couple of weeks ago you had them, but
Yeah, 2 weeks ago I
yeah,
think I had the Hawks. Yeah,
I think I've gone with them before because I mentioned as well like that they can win a random game just when you least expect it, and especially against the Knicks, like Trey Young loves to perform against them. So they're 36-38, and the Knicks are 47-27. So yeah, that's what I've gone with there, and that's on Saturday at 8 p.m. Irish time.
nice.
Then another game I've gone for is Saturday night at 1 a.m. is the Miami Heat to beat the Bucks. We were very down on the Heat last week. They're 33-41, and the Bucks are 40-34. Now, I did say the Heat would bounce back from that, and they have. They won five in a row, and I think the Bucks are in a lot of trouble now with Damian Lillard's injury. Looks like he'll be out for the playoffs. So I think I'm going to go with the Heat there to continue an okay end to the season to inch closer to 500, and the Bucks to keep moving down a little bit closer to playoff time. And then for my football one, I've gone for Man United to beat Man City. So United are 5-2, City are 19-20, so they are money on. And I think this is half four on Sunday, so the big Super Sunday game. I think as for reasons I mentioned before, I like the way United have ramped up a little bit in the last month or so. Now we are recording this on Monday, so they could go out tomorrow against Forest and get absolutely slapped, and everything I've said just makes absolutely no sense to you. But that's my opinion as we stand right now. I think they'll do it. And I think City they won against Bournemouth. I think they'll slap Leicester around the place during the week, and they'll be
Surely.
very high in how they're feeling. And I think United will bring them back down to earth, hopefully. So that's my theory. What have you gone with?
I found the football hard to pick this week because obviously, as you said, we're
Oh,
doing it on
really hard,
Monday,
yeah.
and there's a full run of Premier League games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, where anyone can get injured, anyone can pick up a knock, and everything we say could go out the window. So
Yeah.
I have also gone with two NBA games this weekend. Also hard to pick a week out in advance as well, but I've gone with the Suns to beat the Timberwolves. No, sorry, that was last week. Apologies. So my last week I went with the Wizards to beat the Nets, the Suns to beat
Yeah.
the Timberwolves, and Forest to beat Brighton, and I got 0 out of 3, and we'll just move on and not talk about it. This week I've gone for the Raptors to beat the Pistons. So
Okay.
they're both they're both at 6-4 at the moment. I think it'll be
Over their
close in the
last 10, yeah.
tables. Yeah, over the last 10 there, yeah. The Pistons are 42 and 33. The Raptors are 28 and 47. I think it'll be closer than the table suggests. I think the Raptors are they're building up a small head of steam. They're probably not going to get them anywhere, but they're not as bad as their record suggests for me anyway at the moment. I've also gone for the Mavs to beat the Clippers. So this is one of those where you're kind of looking for something that's close because you had a 0 pointer last week, and this is 37 and 28 plays 42 and 32. So it's
Hmm.
literally it is just a five between them. It could not be five by the time we get there, but
Yeah.
I think the Mavs they're so hot and cold. It's incredible how hot and cold they are, and
Got
I'm just
AD back
hoping.
now, though.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And I'm just hoping they'll be hot at the weekend, and I could do with the Clippers losing as well because they're starting to get on my nerve a bit with how good they're playing. So that would be great
yeah.
as well. And for my football one, yeah, I've gone for Leicester to beat Newcastle. Leicester at home are they're 9-2. Newcastle are 1-2. Newcastle
He's
just won a
taken out on
trophy.
Newcastle since they beat Liverpool in the cup.
It's
That's what
not
he's
even that.
doing right
It's
now.
like it's just that this run of form Leicester are on, it literally can't continue. Like they haven't scored in 7 home games in a row.
Oh,
They can't be
it
this bad
certainly can.
forever. They can't. They can't. They can't be this bad forever. They're going to get slapped by City. Like I think Newcastle will still be on a high. They'll be coming down. They'll probably win midweek as well, and then they'll go to Leicester, and Leicester will finally score a goal and just. I don't know. I'd love to say shut up shop, but they have your man Wout Fez, who's not very good. So
Oh
look,
my Lord. Yeah.
I couldn't back United. There wasn't too many games the weekend. There was an odds-on favorite versus an underdog. So this is the one
No.
I went with.
I think it was either that or like Arsenal, Southampton.
Yeah, and
So
yeah,
yeah,
what's the
it's very
point?
tough. Yeah. No,
But yeah, they're
look,
my three.
you
So
have
I
to
have
go with something.
Leicester, Raptors, and Mavericks.
Nice. Okay, so those are our picks. So lads, keep an eye on the weekend. A little bit more difficult for us this week, choosing
Mm.
this far out. But look, that's what happened with the way the recording went. Scheduled this week. So let's see if we do well this week. Be even more impressive, I think.
Yeah, I
So
agree. It should be a 10
let's.
pointer this week. Bring you back into
Yeah,
it if you get three out
should
of
be.
three.
Yeah. Good idea, actually. We'll talk about that again next week. So what I've gone with as my topic in the NFL to talk about this week is the Giants quarterback situation. So we've mentioned that we were waiting for the chips to fall a couple of times with Rodgers. Look, I said like 2 or 3 weeks ago he's going to end up in the Steelers. He is going to end up in the Steelers. That's just the way it's going to end up. But I think the Giants have kind of slowly moved, and then they've acted on I think what they saw as the best alternative now that Rodgers wasn't available or clearly isn't going to end up there. They didn't want to wait for him anymore. So first of all, they went with Jameis Winston, who I said last week when we were recording that I would actually take him over Rodgers or Wilson if they're going to go with the rookie QB route. Then they went and got Russell Wilson. So he's on a 1 year deal. This is not something I saw happening, and it's not something that I wanted the Giants to do leading into this situation. But to be honest, I think I can get over it, and I think I can allow this to happen for a season, to watch this for a season.
Mm.
We're probably going to see both of these guys because we're not going to win a whole pile of games, so they're both going to play at some point, I reckon. But there's so many other issues on this team. I think just getting a veteran in Russell Wilson and then getting another guy who throws a nice deep ball similar to Russell in Winston as a backup, you're clearly got a game plan there where you're going to go deep and try to get the ball out of their hands quickly and run it a lot with Tyrone Tracy. And I think that's probably a good idea while you're trying to shore up this offensive line. And that's the main thing we need to improve on. So I think we need to go offensive line at some stage in the draft. I would hope it's not with the first pick. I think we'll go with Travis Hunter, fingers crossed. But again, I can't rule out a QB in the draft. I just don't think it'll be with three overall. I think it will be later on. just maybe a hopeful punt at somebody later, like a Jackson Dart or something like that. But what do you think of the Giants QB situation yourself?
Like I think the first thing for me was that like the money for both of them isn't outrageous by any stretch of imagination. They're not breaking the bank at all. So Wilson is a 1 year deal, 10.5 million, including 8 million in a signing bonus. And then there's a load of bonuses. He gets 500 grand if he plays 65% of snaps, gets one and a
Hmm.
half million for 75. So the
I
money
think
for
it's
him
up
is
to 21 or something at a
yeah.
max, so it's not that bad.
And then Jameis Winston is a 2 year deal for 8 million. So
Yeah,
like I
but
agree
only
with you.
four
I
of that
like
is guaranteed with him too.
yeah.
So
So like so the money is fine, and I think both are better options than Rodgers personally for where the Giants are because with that offensive line, putting Rodgers in behind that, the man can't run. He would just have ended up getting slapped around the place. I'm not saying
hmm,
Russell Wilson's Usain Bolt or anything like that, but he is probably a small bit more mobile
yeah,
Than Aaron Rodgers would have been. I don't understand signing both of them, to be honest. Like I think sign one and bring in your rookie, and the rookie can learn from underneath him. I thought when they signed James Winston, that was them done with kind of looking after the veterans, and they just kind of leave it there. But they
yeah,
must have had it. They must have had this plan in place because Russell Wilson didn't really talk to anyone else by the looks of it. Like, 'cause
yeah.
I know I saw a couple
Only
of
the
weeks back,
Browns, I
and
think.
yeah, I saw a couple of weeks back that there was talks of this, and then it kind of just went quiet again, and
Hmm.
then it shot back up last week, and it was signed. I was like, ooh,
Yeah, I
grand
think
enough one.
their plan was that now. I think it's kind of like if they got Winston in, then I'm like, okay, you're either gonna go trade big and try get Cam Ward, or you're gonna hope that Shador gets back to you in third, which I don't think they should do, and I don't think they should give up what the Titans wanted for Cam Ward either. And so I think this is probably the best option available to not go with that. But now you're in this situation where Winston is your starter. And I don't think they wanted that to be the case. They wanted him to be there as part of a room of QBs, involving maybe a rookie who would be the starter from the start, if that
Think you're
was the
starting?
route.
Are you starting Winston over Russell Wilson?
No, but I'm saying at the point of when
Oh, sorry,
Winston
sorry,
was
sorry.
the
Yeah,
only
okay.
guy, like that was the idea there in my mind that, okay, this is the way they'd go. But then when it becomes clear that this move for Wilson completely makes it clear for me that they're not going to do that with the first three
Hmm.
picks. And now he's the starter and Winston is the backup. I think he was going to be the backup either way. But if you didn't get Wilson in, he would have had to be the starter if you don't go high in the draft with a QB. So I think they kind of had to do it if they don't like the QBs. This kind of points to me more than anything that they don't. And I think we'll see a lot of these two guys over the year. And yeah, some pretty dodgy throws and maybe some pretty nice long deep throws as well. So let's see what
Yeah, I
happens.
think the main thing for me on it was that like they didn't want to trade up for Cam Ward because as you said, the Titans are asking for basically asking for an arm and a leg, two kidneys, and maybe a heart transplant as well. Like the stuff they're asking for is
Yeah, it's gone
ridiculous.
up and up
And
and up as well.
yeah, and so outside of like Cam Ward, Shadir, it's kind of like the further down you go, the weaker the quarterbacks are.
Yeah,
I don't confess to know a whole lot about this draft class, but I think it's kind of clear to see from first of all, from what the Titans are asking for, and the fact that they've signed Wilson, that no one is really that hot on the quarterbacks outside of the top two, maybe top three.
yeah. I think that the main two guys are Ward and Shador, and I don't know. Ward is probably going to go one now to the Titans.
Mm,
That's what's going to happen unless somebody gives them like the three first rounders that they want, or then which somebody isn't going to do that because I think they know that next year is loaded with QBs in the draft class. So I think for once the Giants have probably made the smart move here and bided their time and just seeing what they can do now with the rest of the roster and hopefully just win more games than last season and then go QB then next season. If you have to
yeah.
trade some stuff away next season to do that, then do. But yeah, that's my whole opinion on the current Giants quarterback situation. So it's just mainly a lot of fingers and toes being crossed over here for me at this point.
The main thing for me was the money. Like once the money didn't get out of hand, and like if it does get to 21 million, it means you've had a really, really good season. So
True.
you can probably accept that. Like the fact it's going to be, we'll say 12 million between the two of them over the course of the year. If it's sorry, it's 8 million signing and 4 million guaranteed. So yeah, between 8 and 10 million for the year for two
Yeah.
quarterbacks. It's not that bad.
I think it as
Um,
well it could be a possibility that this probably won't happen, but let's say something happens where Cam Ward slips to you or you didn't
Yeah,
expect Shador to slip, and now he's there in third, and you do pick him, like Jameis is cuttable on that contract. You're only
yeah,
losing 4 million, and then if another team picks him up, whatever they pay him is going to be knocked off that, so you're not losing much.
yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
let's see what happens. But do you want to go ahead with your topic for this week?
Yeah, so I just wanted us to both kind of pick a coach, a new coach, because there's seven new coaches in the league this year. I just wanted to pick one each and kind of talk about it. So I was going to go with Aaron Glenn, but we did a lot of kind of Jets talk the last couple of weeks, and my Jets bias it seems to have stunk a bit recently. So I'm actually going to talk about Kalen Moore,
Yeah.
the award winning, the Super Bowl winning offensive coach for the Eagles last year.
Hmm.
I think this is a great move for both him and for the Saints.
Yeah.
I think like if he can get Derek Carr working properly, and he was a quarterback himself, really good
Hmm.
offensive coach. Obviously, if he can get Derek Carr going, they brought in Brandon Cooks, great addition. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has a lot to prove as well.
Mm.
I think like I don't think that the Saints are going to be anything special this year, but I think it's a really good move into coaching for him. It's a really good first step. It's going to be a lot harder than he had it last year at the Eagles, obviously, but
Yeah.
like for his first step in, there won't be that much pressure on him because no one in New Orleans is expecting a Super Bowl anytime soon. So kind of takes the pressure off him a small bit, and he can just kind of just settle into it. Get some good professionals around him, some good young players coming through. I think it's a really good move from both sides.
Yeah. I think it's a good opportunity if they're willing to give him the time to settle into it. I think he's he's a young coach, so only 36 years of age. And as you mentioned, he played QB. It didn't really work out for him in the
Mm.
league, but he transitioned quickly into coaching, and he was the QB coach with the Cowboys. Then moved on to the offensive coordinator job between 2019 and 22, and that was a good period for Dak. He worked well there with him,
Yeah, he
and
liked him.
then yeah, and when he went and headed over to the Eagles, look what he did with the offense last season and how much they trusted him to, call the plays the way that they wanted it to go. And it worked for them throughout the entire season, got them to win the Super Bowl. I think going and adding who we actually mentioned with Conan, like as kind of jokingly a good few weeks ago when he was on with me, and he mentioned like getting Brandon Staley in as the DC,
Yeah.
then it ended up happening. I think that was a good move because he was a first time head coach in 2021 for a couple of years with the Chargers, and it didn't really work out, but he's a very, very good DC. And I think he's only young as well, 42 years of age, I think. So
Mm.
he's definitely a good guy to have in your corner, kind of to help you and point you in the direction that where he maybe fell down. So I think that was an astute move as well by
Like
Moore to
I
hire
think
him.
yeah, I think everything they've done, like it all paints positive pictures. Like they've given him the freedom to bring in who he wants. The people he's brought in has been they've been smart moves. Everything he's done has been smart so far. He's clearly an excellent defensive coach. He now has a really good defensive coordinator behind him as well, so he can kind of concentrate on getting the best out of Derek Carr, getting the best out of his running back, showing him this is what I did with Barkley, this is what I did with my wide receivers. So there's
Yeah.
like he's coming from a good pedigree. People are clearly going to respect him. He's a Super Bowl winner. Like people are going to respect him. I think it's hard to see any negatives in it for me at the moment. But as you said, it's all about the Saints being willing to give him time
Hmm.
because he's not Joe. He's going to make mistakes,
Yeah.
and you just have to be able to bite the bullet and say, yeah, he made a mistake there. We lost by 20 points, but the future is brighter with him than it is without him.
Yeah, I think it's always tough for first time head coaches, especially I find it like when you're like, you're obviously this offensive guy, you're just off the highest of highs, and now you're going to a
Mm.
team that is a good few years away from winning anything. It's quite a tough transition, but as you mentioned, some of the guys they signed, and he's also got Chris Olave there, Alvin Kamara, some guys to work with. So I think, yeah, I think, look, we'll see what happens. Conan will certainly be hoping for a positive outcome, but
Yeah, of course he will.
yeah, I've gone with someone on the opposite end of the age
Yeah,
spectrum. So
big time.
I've gone with Pete Carroll as my best head coaching hire. Obviously, definitely not a first time head coach. This man is absolutely the definition of a veteran. Like he was a college coach for 10 years from 1973 to 83. Then he went from into the NFL, moved from a DB coach up to a head coach between 84 and 99. Obviously the USC head coach then for 8 years and the Seahawks head coach for 14 years, winning a Super Bowl with them in 2014 with the aforementioned Russell Wilson leading the team. But he's a decorated coach, four-time Rose Bowl champion, seven-time Pac-10 champion with USC, and I think they've done the perfect thing here with as the Raiders. The reason I went with them is because I think they have a really good roster already, and I think the amount of games they won doesn't reflect the players they had available. I think Antonio Pierce was way out of his depth, and I think as a defensive coordinator, as a guy to motivate people, similar to like an Aaron Glenn type, I think he could be good in the league. He could have a position, but getting in a guy like Pete Carroll, who has so much experience, getting him his quarterback in Geno Smith tied down for the next few years. It's only a 3 year contract. He's just there to steady the ship and guide this team forward. I think they will have a winning season this season. That's a bold statement, but I think they will. I think they'll turn things around a lot because I like what they have there on offense already. And the defense speaks for itself. It's already been excellent, and they've tied Max Crosby down to a 3 year deal, 106.5 million extension.
I
He
think
was the
he's
highest.
worth every cent of it. Or sorry, every
Yeah,
cent of it. I think he is outrageously good. He's incredible. And
he is so good.
the fact he's signed on to stay there and not gone for a Super Bowl pushing team, I think
Yeah,
that's a big win for him off the start anyway.
yeah, he was the highest paid non QB there for a couple of weeks, or a couple of days, even at that price point. And I think it's good they stuck with the same DC because they've been good on defense, as I mentioned. And then also adding an old head in Chip Kelly as their offensive coordinator, kind of really steadying the ship, getting these two guys in, former head coaches in the NFL, in college football, very decorated and a lot of experience. So I think these were good moves. What do you think of this whole hire?
Like, I agree with you. I think it's a good move from him. It's the smart play that if you're not going to go and bring in a new quarterback like the Saints have done, that the best next thing to do is get someone who knows how to do it, who's done it over and over and over and over again. They really do need to steady the ship 'cause they've had a couple of dodgy years, and like they have players there that are so talented that if
Yeah,
they can just if they can get the best out of them, then they could very well have a 500 season. I can't see any issue with the statement you made. Brock Bowers is the best tight end in the league for me. I think he's absolutely insane.
yeah,
I think Raheem Mostert's a great pickup as well, and obviously Geno Smith's a brilliant pickup, especially with Pete Carroll now, who knows him so well. Um,
just
I
such
think
a
he's
solid player. Like
yeah,
he won't
and
make many mistakes.
no, exactly. And like he's 73. So if, as you said, he's the definition of a veteran. 3 year
Yeah,
contract, then he rides away off into the sunset. And then they bring in someone younger or step up their DC or their OC again. But like when I looked at like on face value, I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's like first of all, it's like, why is he picking this to talk about? And then I was like, why the hell have they done that? But then when I looked into it, the more I looked into it, and I kind of went through Arfield, read there through, it was like, oh yeah, it actually makes so much sense
yeah,
for it makes so much sense for Pete Carroll to kind of it keeps him out of the house, away from the wife, kind of keeps him motivated. But it makes sense for the Raiders because, as you said, like they've had a couple of dodgy years now where they haven't been able to get anything going. And
hmm
if he can motivate you to get going, then I don't think anyone can. And it might just need just to tear the book up and try again. Then if it doesn't work under him,
yeah. I think getting him in there with and straight away it makes when he got him in, I was like, okay, it makes a lot of sense now. What we're gonna do with the QB, and then it's like if they do draft a QB, I was kind of thinking, I don't know if that's a good decision because he won't be there in the long run. I don't know, does he
yeah,
want to develop a young guy? But they go get somebody that he knows on a deal for a similar length of time that he's going to be there, and I feel like these two guys together can guide the team forward into a couple of winning seasons and then move on from there. So yeah, this way I like this one the most. I thought it was a really smart move, and I think it makes the biggest difference. I think in terms of from where they were last season to next season in all the hires. So that's why I've gone with this one.
yeah.
But
I think I think it's a smart move, and
yeah,
I hope it works out for him. It's basically so that the Jets have a better draft pick if that's the way they're going. Because we don't need teams to be worse than us if we're going to be tanking again. But I don't think we will be either. But I
yeah,
think it's a good move for both sides of the set at the top. I think bringing
yeah,
in Geno Smith to help them as well, as you said, it's just yeah. There's very, very few losers from what I can see in this. Like they're not going to win a Super Bowl under him, but they could get back to being a team that's you kind of you're afraid to play again. I don't think there's
yeah.
many teams afraid to play the Raiders last year.
No, and they knew that if they did show up on defense, they weren't going to do a thing on offense. So at least now, hopefully, it'll be more well rounded and under a bit more veteran guidance. So yeah, I like that move. Do you want to give us a rundown of your power rankings from last week and what you've gone with this week then?
Yeah, yeah, will do. So last week I had the Thunder at number one, the Celtics at two, Rockets were in at three, Liverpool were four, Cavs were five, and the Warriors were six. I've gone back to a 4-2 split this week, so I brought in another Premier League team and gone back to a 4-2.
Yeah.
The Thunder obviously stay top.
Hmm.
Um, Liverpool haven't been playing. Liverpool haven't been very good since I last watched them. The Thunder are just absolutely incredible at the moment, so they hold on to top spot for me.
Yeah.
I've made a change or two, so my two and three have swapped. So
Ooh.
the Celtic and Rockets have now swapped to the Rockets and the Celtics. So the Rockets are in a two. They have 12 wins in their last 13. I mentioned the last couple of weeks now, I'm just so high on them at the moment. I absolutely love what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's such a far cry from last year, and I just like when you watch the team tanking for so long to see him winning again, it's just incredible. So 9-1 in the last 10, obviously 12 in the last 13. As I said, I just think they're brilliant. And then the Celtics in a three. They had nine and one is the joint best record in the league at the moment. So it is the three teams that have their all are 9-1. They have the three best records in the league. The Celtics are just incredible as well, and they are my second favourites for the title after the Thunder. I think
Yeah.
you said it. I think you said it a while as well that it's the same for you.
Yeah.
Liverpool stay in fourth for me. There's no reason to drop them any further. Joe, they've dropped from first to fourth. Joe, they're not going to hit five or six for me anytime soon anyway. And then to round it out, I have the Warriors in at five. They're still their sneaky little basketball team. And then Nottingham Forest have come in to my top six. They're just, Joe, they're now in an FA Cup semi-final. They're still in the top four picture and they're very, very, very good to watch.
Yeah.
What a season they've had. What a season.
Yeah. No, definitely can't argue with that. So what I went with last week was Thunder at one, Newcastle at two, Liverpool three, Celtics four, Clippers five, and Brighton at six. So this week I've left the Thunder first for the same reasons you mentioned. I think they're just the best team across all of the sports we covered, including the NFL, for how dominant they are. They've won nine in a row, recently beaten the Pacers and the Grizzlies by 21, beaten the Kings and the Bucks by 16. They've just inevitably so good. I left Newcastle where they are because they still haven't played, so I just thought it's not fair to drop them. I've moved the Celtics up one because of how good they've been recently. So they've won eight in a row. They're on a 9-1 run, and they beat the Suns by 30 points just a couple of games ago. They've been very, very good, very solid. I know they've had a bit of an easier schedule as of late, but you have to beat what's in front of you.
Exactly.
And I think they've done very well for a team that's, they won last year and they're not taking their foot off the pedal. Then Liverpool are still in there, haven't played either, so I didn't think to drop them out. Then in fifth, I've gone with the Rockets. So I've added them in this week.
Yes.
I think I couldn't ignore them any longer. Before I kind of mentioned about, like, some of the teams they beat were easy, and it was similar with the Celtics there for a while. But then when you just do it for so long, you have to add them in. I think, like, they've beaten so many teams now. Doesn't matter their level. Like, they've won 12 of their last 13. They have to be considered. Like, the only team they lost to in the last 13 was the Nuggets. They beat the Suns by 39 points just the other night, so that is insane. And they're just ramping up more and more and more. So they deserve to be on this list again. So I've added them back in there in fifth. And then in sixth, a first time entry for me is Crystal Palace, for all the reasons I mentioned earlier. We've gone down a similar route. We both picked our FA Cup
Yeah.
predicted winners to go in at
Oh
sixth.
yeah.
So yeah, I've gone with them. That's pretty much me there for that one. So that's my top six. Yeah, that's pretty much all we have, I think, for this week, man.
Just before we go, I just want to, we haven't really mentioned it in a while now, but we're talking about the Rockets there as well. I want to kind of give Jalen Green a bit of credit because the last time we talked about him, we
Mm,
were we were we were a bit down on him. I wasn't convinced by him. He was off the back of having a really poor run of form.
yeah,
But he's another man. He's like SGA. He started every game for the Rockets this year, averaging 22 points, three assists, five rebounds across the season. At the moment, I have like would say 2 months ago, I was afraid going into playoffs if he was going to be the leading man.
yeah,
I now I'm excited to watch him go into playoffs and lead this team. Joe, we're not going to win it, but just getting into playoffs and having him leading this team, I think is going to be it's going to be a joy to watch. I think.
Yeah, it'll be exciting at the very least. Like I think,
Mm.
yeah, I think from when we last spoke about him, we wanted him to be more consistent. And in fairness, he has been. He hasn't been too many nights where he's lit the world on fire with 50 points, but he hasn't had his nights that he used to have a lot with like 10 points, 5 points, 6 points. He's been very, very consistent. And as you said, played. He's played. I think he played every game last season as well.
Yeah, he has.
So
Yeah, he's played. I think he
it's
started the last 152 games or something like
it's
that, or
just
something
that's
mad.
like best ability is your availability. So very very good player as of late, and he has clearly improving as time goes by. And I really like a lot of the players on the team that complement him as well, like the likes of Eamon Thompson there alongside him. I think
Yeah,
works really
what a
really well.
player.
So yeah, future's
I
bright.
just wanted to give him a very, very quick shout out because I know we've gone over time again as well, but just give him a quick shout out.
No, you're well within your rights to shout out one of your stars. I think. Yeah, no, I think things are looking good. As you said, I don't think you'll go very far, but I think as kind of not to the extent that the Thunder did it, but I think you're bedding in this young team now in the playoffs with their first run.
Yeah.
If they can even get one series win, that'll be great for them going into next year. So I think
As
it's a
long as they
good.
don't rip it up in the offseason then and trade away a load of the young fellas to bring in a Kevin Durant or something, which all the talk on Twitter is that. And it would just
Yeah,
it would drive me bananas if they went and brought in a 37-year-old when this has worked so well. And you built for
yeah,
so long for this to go and then rip it all up to bring in a star.
yeah. I just
Just
don't
keep
think they
keep the
will.
core. No,
I
hopefully
don't think
not.
they'll do it. I think they have a good plan in place, and I think we could see Durant, God knows where. There's been rumors of a lot of things, but
Mm.
I hope first of all, but I also think that they won't do that. I think this season has gone so well that there's no reason to. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this week.
Mhm.
Back to a bit of a longer episode again. We talked a lot about different things this week, so let us know if you enjoyed it. And thanks for listening along. And I'll throw it over to you, to Shane, if you want to wrap up.
Yeah, just hit that like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment. Anything you do, just it really does help with kind of getting it out there to more people. So all we can ask for is just keep listening if you're enjoying it. Leave comments on anything you want us to improve on, and we'll see you back here next week.
Nice one. See you, lads.
Cheers, lads.